Okay, so till now we'll saw the behavioral framework. Now we'll go on to sensory framework. The sensory framework is based on Jean Ayer's principle of sensory integration, where the theory is the child will have problem in processing various sensory modalities, and because of the problem in processing, they will have problem in the behavior and problem in learning. So this is what is happening in sensory integration therapy. Okay, so they will have a sensory room with various toys that will be very visually appealing to the child. They will give something called just right dose. They use various sensory integration technique, like for example, bouncing ball or jungle gym. All these things are sensory used in sensory integration training. Okay, they use sensory integration techniques just right. For example, this particular child require 1.5 hours. Okay, that is a just right dose. Some child require 45 minutes. Some child require 30 minutes every 1 hour. Okay, the sensory needs are very high. Okay, that is called sensory diet. Okay, they require very frequent sensory activities for them to focus. Some child requires like every 15 to 20 minutes morning, afternoon and evening. Okay, so this is just right dose. Basically, the therapist will assess and find out what is the just right dose for that particular child. Okay, so they give sensory integration in that frequency so that the learning improves by processing the sensory inputs well. Okay, the children process the sensory input, basically what they receive from the environment, and they'll be able to coordinate in the brain well, and it results in good output. Okay, so this is what is sensory integration training meaning. So the sensory integration training, basically we all know this 5 senses, that is visual, auditory, smell, olfactory, touch, tactile and taste. Okay, gustatory. We know these senses, and there are hypersensory or hyposensory in these domains. Okay, it can be visual. Hypersensory means the child is aversive to that particular visual input. Okay, they don't tolerate it. Hyposensory means, hypo means they are seeking, they want. For example, the child keeps seeing like this, means they say visual hyposensory, because the child is seeking that particular, or seeing like this. Okay, or seeing the repeatedly seeing the toy with some lights. Okay, this is called visual seeking. Basically seeking means hyposensory. Aversive means hypersensory. The child is avoiding particular noise, the child is closing the ears and crying. Okay, that is, the child is basically hypersensory and aversive. Hyposensory, seeking. Okay, so this is basically either the child will have aversion or seeking, which is basically manifesting as problem behavior. For example, this is auditory hypersensitivity. Some cooker sound example, the child is closing the ears. Okay, the child is aversive to that particular sound, that is auditory hypersensory. Tactile hypersensory. Okay, the child is aversive to the simple hug. Okay, routinely kids enjoy hugging from others, but here the child with autism has tactile hypersensory, basically avoiding and aversive to that particular sensory input. Seeking, olfactory, seeking, keep smelling things. Okay, so here the child is seeking more and more smell. Okay, keep smelling each and everything. Okay, so this is olfactory, seeking. Basically the child is hyposensory in that particular domain. Compared to these basic 5 senses, the sensory integration's main focus is on these 2. Okay, the interoception you leave it, basically sensory needs about the body, sensory awareness about the internal organs. So currently we are not going to discuss this. We will discuss other 2 domain. Okay, which is very important in the sensory integration training. Okay, proprioceptive and vestibular. Majority of the work that goes in the occupation therapy session is basically proprioceptive sensation and vestibular sensation. Basically here the aversion is less, they will have more and more of seeking. Okay, proprioceptive seeking, vestibular seeking. So what is this proprioception? Okay, proprioception is basically joint position, and vestibular apparatus is basically, for example, motion sickness is basically vestibular sensation, where sensitive vestibular apparatus can lead to motion sickness. Okay, so proprioceptive seeking and vestibular seeking. Occupation therapist, it's a theory. Okay, believes many of the hyperactivity and many of the stereotypes. Okay, like for example spinning, okay, the child keeps spinning or child keep rocking, okay, so it is due to vestibular hyposensory. Okay, many of the hyperactivity or flapping or toe walking, it is due to proprioceptive hyposensory, so they keep seeking. So by giving activities like crawling, commando crawling, or therapeutic rapping, okay, or climbing in jungle gym, or bouncing in the gym ball, okay, though these are basically vestibular and proprioceptive sensory activities. By giving these activities in a just right dose, improves or satisfies these sensory needs. Basically, when I am hungry, I am not able to focus on anything. So when you satisfy my hunger by giving food, so I'll be able to focus better. So that is the concept. Okay, if they have lots of these sensory needs, they will not be able to focus on other stimulation, other essential stimulation. So when they give just right dose with the help of sensory integration training, when they satisfy these sensory needs, they will be able to function much better. The maladaptive behavior comes down and they are able to learn well. So this is the theory as per sensory integration therapist.